Almost everyone I know loves Washington for its lush green surroundings. After all, it is known as the Evergreen State. But what most people don't know is how much work is required to keep our forests and our riverbanks healthy from disease, pests, and invasive species. You can help keep Washington green simply by knowing a little bit about the native species of plants in the region. The United States Department of Agriculture, U.S. Forest Service, Native Gardening article states that native plants promote healthy soils, insect and wildlife biodiversity, helps provide a variety of food and shelter for them, and it provides clean air with erosion, all while using little to no pesticides, fungicides, or excess fertilizers on the ecosystem. With the help from you, planting native plants in your gardens, communities, and forests can provide benefits for all living organisms. My desire for you is to come away knowing what is affecting the health of our forests and our parks. I want you to be inspired to plant native species vital to our region because of how important the resident ecosystem is. First, I will talk about invasive plant species, disease, and pests. Next, I will discuss where these problems are coming from and then how to mitigate bringing invasive species, disease, and pests into the local area. Finally, I will discuss what you can do to keep Washington's green forests native. Invasive species are plants that have been introduced to the ecosystem that invade natural habitats and crowd out native species, thus killing off the native plants. Some species include knotweed, Himalayan blackberry, Scotch broom, morning glory vines, creeping ivy, stinky bob, and horsetails, to name a few. They are very difficult, if not impossible, to eradicate from an area and oftentimes end up spreading far past where their intended home was. They end up actually destroying the soil pH or killing local fauna off entirely. For example, to demonstrate how unhindered some of these species can be, Scotch broom was brought over from Europe and propagated by less than 10 seeds, and now it's found almost everywhere in roadside ditches, in the parks, in forests, and even backyards. According to Park Radosevich and Indris, Perspective in Plant Ecology, Evolution, and Systematics 2005 states that human settlement at low elevations and intense land use of upland forests will likely to continue to enhance invasive plant introduction into the Northwest mountain ecosystems. In the last 15 years, this has proven to be true with a massive diaspora of people migrating into the South Sound region. Fungal and pathogenic disease are illnesses that are passed from plant to plant via wind, rain, humans, or man-made objects and leach the life out of the host. Amy Ramsey, Conifer Disease in Washington, Identification, Management, and Weather Influences from Seattle.gov reports diseases such as laminating root rot, Swiss needle cast, and leaf blight are all too common in our trees and can be carried in on foot from another infected forest, logging machinery, and tourists. Root rot starts underground at the roots and slowly compromises the structural integrity of the tree trunk, weakening the tree by leaching nutrients out of the tree, and it leaves the tree rings to laminate together, a lot like a plywood board. Swiss needle cast, which is found on conifer trees, travels in the form of spores and moves through the air on contact from other trees. It then blocks the stoma, which lets the tree oxygenate and suffocates the needles, effectively turning off the branches and leaving them to die. Leaf blight leaves black spots that slowly spread all over the leaf and deteriorate the leaf entirely, which doesn't allow it to photosynthesize. It also spreads via wind, but also from rain dripping or splashing from one infected leaf to another, as reported by the 2020 Regents of the University of Minnesota, Leaf Spot Disease of Tree and Shrubs, 2018. Pests, which are invasive insects, are ripping through our forests, taking down our large trees. Many bug species have come over from global transportation on vehicles, packing supplies, and unregulated materials such as logs, nurseries, plants, and soils. Gypsy moths, emerald ash borers, Japanese beetles, Syrinx wood wasps are a few species that attack trees by feeding on the foliage and rapidly lay eggs, which is quick to stress and injure a tree. The trees are then overcome by the sheer number of insects feeding on its nutrients, and it dies. The bugs just simply move on to the next tree after that. Another threat to native plants is people bringing plants over from their home countries and nurseries selling ornamental plants. Over time, these foreign plants have escaped into the wild and have become an invasive species and a noxious weed. A noxious weed is a plant that is considered dangerous to the environment because it's toxic to humans, animals, and insects via contact with the skin or when it's ingested. Also, people must be wary of plants that are purchased from nurseries and big box stores because it can be treated with pesticides and insecticides, even at the seed level. National Pesticide Information Center, article titled Treated Seeds, January 28, 2020, reports that seeds are treated to control insects that may feed upon seedlings. Some of these do end up in residential gardens, and you can easily indicate them because they're coated in a brightly dyed dust, mist, or clay. One common dangerous insecticide is neonicotinoids, an insect neurotoxicant, which attacks the central nervous system. This ends up killing and poisoning any pollinators that comes into contact with the plant's nectar and pollen. Another recent issue you maybe heard about is people from all over the US were receiving unexpected, unmarked packages from China that were containing unknown seeds. Harmeet Kaur, CNN, article titled All 50 States Have Issued Warnings About Mysterious Packages of Seeds, dated July 29, 2020, reports that some were being marked and imported on forged labels, and they were marked as jewelry by the China Post. Some people were wary, but some people probably did put those seeds in the ground without thinking twice. This could bring in so many biological agents that we cannot or don't know how to fight should it get out. With all these reapers constantly trying to kill native plants, it's imperative that we replace these diseased and dying plants. Nature can't keep up with our fast-paced lives, and it moves much slower than we do, so it cannot replenish these trees and shrubs as quickly as we need them to. So do your part and clean your shoes before and after you go hiking so you don't track in seeds, insect eggs, and illnesses into the next areas the next time you go out. Don't touch all the plant leaves, don't peel the bark off the tree, and don't put unnecessary holes in the trees. Buy vetted plants from reputable nurseries. Get involved in your community to plant native trees in your parks and nature areas. Choose native plants for your community gardens and home gardening like thimbleberry, salmonberry, Nootka roses, sword ferns, lady ferns, maidenhair ferns, black twinberry, CP, arrowleaf balsam root, hairy golden asters, and forget-me-nots. Choose native tree and shrub species like western hemlock, Sitka and Engelmann spruce, Oregon white oaks, vine maple, big leaf maple, just to name a few. I highly suggest also getting involved in multiple nature communities in your area. Some well-known groups in this sound is Pierce County Master Gardeners, Nisqually Foundation, Nisqually Land Trust, and Mid-Sound Fisheries. It helps you to not only get outside more, but reputable specialists can also teach you about local ecosystems, as they vary from location to location. What you plant in a desert-like area like Yakima is vastly different from what you plant in the South Sound Pacific Northwest region. You can also begin to look for reputable nurseries who sell native species in the Pacific Northwest, like the Fourth Corners Nursery from Bellingham, Washington. The reason some people choose to plant whatever they want is because they feel like the aesthetic look of a plant is cool. It grows extremely quickly and tall, and it provides a nice barrier, and some even leave blackberries in the area to deter homeless encampments, as awful as that is. Although they, in turn, serve a purpose, it doesn't do any good in the long run. For example, barberry plants, known as thorn bushes, is a species you can find at any box store. They're good to keep small animals and rodents out of the area, and the issue with them is they're known to bring disease into the area via the root systems, and they also attract and harbor ticks. My hope is that I've encouraged you today to think twice about planting anything and everything that you find in Sear box stores or from seed packets, and to genuinely give thought to what you want to accomplish when planting. There are so many native species that are bright and colorful and soft and aromatic, and there's climbers and creepers, so there's tons of options for you to accomplish your goal with native plants. Even better, you can plant a native perennial plant, meaning you buy the one plant and you put it in the ground and it comes back every year and it gives you your money's worth. When you plant native species, you're giving back for generations to come. Like the Greek proverb says, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in.